Hey everybody, Darren Dedo coming up on Unexplained Cases Live. We have an incredible guest. We are very pleased to welcome to the show Addison Brown in honor of Black History Month. You know, Addison is a filmmaker, conservationist, even a celebrity chef. And get this, she has actually cooked for a president. That's right, she created dishes for former President Bill Clinton. Not a lot of people can say that they've done that. But it's not just about the culinary arts. She's an artist behind the camera as a documentary filmmaker, best known for her emotional documentary, See Me, celebrating the lives of African children survivors after a devastating loss from AIDS. She also cares deeply about the environment. As a wildlife conservationist, she is the founder of the Emerging World Foundation. And her work doesn't stop there. She's also the host of the podcast, What Are You Doing Here? Now, during this episode, Maryam will conduct a special remote viewing of the Strozier Plantation in Georgia. She hopes to learn how her heritage is attached to this location steeped in history during a sad time of slavery in our country. So, what will Maryam discover about Addison's past? One that possibly stretches back to the Tulsa Massacre? This is sure to be an emotional show not to miss. A unique celebration of Black history is next on Unexplained Cases Live.
I am.
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 I am. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am Black History.
We are Black History.
Ooh, we got all kinds of fun coming up tonight. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Unexplained Cases Live. You've got Rick Garner, Darren Dedo, and Maryam the Medium. How y'all doing?
Well, my box
Good,
is
sir. How are
usually
you?
where Darren's box is.
Oh, well, you know what? I have the power to fix that. Now, does that make
Oh my gosh,
is that better? Is that better? Okay.
It's like Bewitched or something like that.
You know, it's
Magic of live television.
It's amazing what power I have. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Skeleton Crew. Aaron, Brenda.
Kara Jane. Lisa
all
Lynn.
pouring, all pouring in. See, that's the beauty of making this romper room. I still need to get an Unexplained Cases mirror for that, I think.
Stop
Okay.
threatening and just do it.
So, well, I mean, come on.
It's just a handheld mirror, and you have a wife and a daughter. I'm sure you have 6 of them in your house.
It has to be an Unexplained Cases.
So, in other words, we're never gonna get it.
Wow. Ye have little faith.
Yeah.
Ye of
Damn,
little
it's already
faith.
8:02 or whatever my time. And
You
she's
know,
already going in.
Well, we're almost on. I mean, we're coming up on slowly coming up on a year of this show. Isn't it a year in May?
Yes.
Well, it is February, but
May,
yeah,
May
yeah,
is
really.
a year. Maybe.
Yeah. Do you need me to go back to the first episode when you said that you were going to use your romper room mirror? Maybe I'll do that. I'll spend hours tomorrow scouring all our shows.
So, folks, basically, what I want you to know is this is what I deal with actually on a daily basis. And so if you have sympathy for me, basically, feel free and put that into the comments. You know, hashtag Team Rick or hashtag Team Miriam. Because this is
hashtag is Darren dipping during the show.
No,
he's a professional. Come on.
He's not even waiting till after. He used to wait till after. Now it's just like
I'm so stressed I couldn't take it.
Why? It's freaking Sunday.
Because I knew because I had to put up with you for an hour. That's why.
You know
what? Bruce could probably relate.
Thank God
to
I'm not
that.
married to you. God bless your husband. He's so.
See, this
Can we
is
start over.
This is see edit room roll no. So oh my goodness, you know. So enough of all this frivolity. I think actually, Terry, you probably need to come in and balance everything.
I got nothing.
Terry,
you know, because Terry's used to the
pre-show,
which spills over into the real show, and
wow. She's like, these people are insane.
yeah, pretty much.
I'm gonna go get a paper plate and write Unexplained Cases on it. So we have it here.
And put like a popsicle stick to it and glue
That's
that.
a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
I mean, let's make this a real project here. Come on,
I'm
let's
good
get.
with just a plate.
Oh my goodness!
I have to go down to Michael's, I guess, and get like a craft thing or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh! Forget it.
Candace!
Done.
Candace, Miria, get at him. Candace, wait a minute. Don't. Whose side are you on?
You gave her the option.
Aaron
So
says,
proud.
Rick, you know you love it. See, well,
The abuse, he does like it.
yeah, I actually do. You know, that's. I walk out into traffic all the time, basically. Right like that, so,
You know, flip flops
That sounds
in the snow.
like a Saturday night.
Precisely.
Oh yeah, you guys got terrible weather, huh?
Oh, well, I still got snow out here after about the 6 inches that we had. So, you know, snow and ice, good stuff. You know, I know that out in there in LA, y'all with your nice little 70 degrees, blah, blah. So it's fine.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Not good, but yeah.
Well, Terry, we appreciate you being here tonight. We everyone hopefully got a chance to,
Thank you.
if they hadn't already met you from previous episodes that we've done on our celebration of Black History, they got a chance to meet you last week. Fascinating conversation, not only with you, but also with your history.
Yeah.
And that's what tonight's all about too. And so we have a special guest waiting in the green room. So I'm going to bring Miss Addison in, and we're all going to slide into the green room and let y'all be able to chat. So welcome to the show, Addison. Thanks so much for being here.
Addison. Hello, my lady. You have so many different titles that I know you by, chef and Tiffany and all kinds of things. Thank you for saying yes to this. Thank you for doing it. I was very, very excited to have you on as a guest just because you truly are a Renaissance woman. And people throw that title around a lot, but since I've known you, you've lived so many lives, and that's always inspired me, and I've always admired you for it. At one point, you wanted to be a Buddhist nun. Yes, you did. When I met you, we were doing a Lifetime show, and you were it was like probably the height of you doing your culinary. At that point, when I met you, that was like when it was really taking off. So you have to tell me the story about the Buddhist Nun first. Let's start with that one.
Oh my. Wow. You're really making me go back far. The Buddhist Nun. Well, I had started studying Tibetan Buddhism I was always a searcher. I was always looking. I was always wanting to know what this life is about and what are we doing here and how do we get to it and all that good stuff. So somehow I fell into Buddhism. And I was cooking at the time. I had already come back to the United States after living some time in Europe and studying cooking. When I came back to the States, I was a little disenchanted. And I got a call from the center where I practiced at in Berkeley. And they said, we have this young Buddhist nun who's coming to teach. And she's a High Lama, like really High Lama, like a female version of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And we think you should cook for her.
Oh my God.
So do you say no?
Exactly.
No, I didn't say no. And I spent a couple of weeks as her chef. And I wanted to stay and live at the monastery in northern India with her and just study and learn and be a nun. That was it. And she said, no, that's not your path.
That's your path, yeah.
Your work is in the world.
Yeah.
She said, your work is in the world. And she was right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she was. Because you've been doing a lot of stuff. First of all, because it's my favorite thing. I know for you, you did it and the experience is done now. But I love the fact that you did cook for the president. You did cook for POTUS. Will you tell me how that came about?
Well, so then after I was stuck in the world and I could not escape to northern India to be a nun, I moved to Los Angeles, and I had been doing I did an apprentice at Chez Panisse in Berkeley. I spent some time there, and I came to LA with the private chef thing going on already. And when I got to LA, I started working for a very large and popular catering company, and they had A-list celebrity clients. And one of those clients happened to be a good friend of POTUS, and they were doing a fundraiser. And at that time, I was the executive sous chef. And so we had to do this fundraiser in the hills of Bel Air.
Of course.
And it was amazing. I mean, just the security that we had to go through, the food checks, and incidentally, POTUS only drank Diet Coke. So all that beautiful food didn't really matter. POTUS wanted a Diet Coke.
Right.
So, and I wanted to see the beast, and which was parked right outside the kitchen door. So
Right.
I was like, hello, where is the chef? She's out there. The car. It's astonishing, just what?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was quite an experience, but it's fair enough to say that I've cooked for a lot of people. Actually ate food.
You have cooked for a lot of people. And what I love about it is that, first of all, you're not, let's be clear, you're not a cook. You're a classically trained chef. It's not like you decided, well, I'll put some meals together and see how it goes.
No.
You are
Oh,
definitely a classically trained chef.
Tip of a thumb to prove it. I have chef scars, okay?
But doing that and what it takes to become a really good chef, you also have always fulfilled your spiritual calling and telling stories and healing through telling stories. And you directed one of my favorite documentaries that I think I've seen by now probably 8 or 10 times, and it's called See Me.
Yes.
Tell me about how it, and I love the way that you all decided to structure the story and how the story was being told. Can you talk about that?
Most certainly. The See Me project was born of my think tank at that time, a desire to tell the stories of the children that were impacted by HIV and AIDS, that 1.5 million children impacted by HIV AIDS. And so we crafted the whole project where we were sponsored by Kodak, and we gave cameras to children living in orphanages in South Africa. I wanted to give cameras to over 1,000 kids.
Wow.
And I was stuck on it. And I had somewhat of an epiphany one night, realizing that the best way for people to really understand without getting overwhelmed was maybe meet a handful of those children.
Yes. So
we focused on 300.
Just a few.
I got the team to come down to 300. And so we set up this photography event, and we gave the kids one-time use cameras, which goes to tell you how long ago that was.
Right.
They had one-time use cameras. They had a curriculum. We sent them back into their homes, into their churches, into their schools, to their friends, to their communities. Now, these children lived in orphanages, but they studied at the orphanage, they ate there, but they went to homes in the community. Right. That was very important for the NOAA project, was that these children were taken care of by the community. And one of my primary focus was that this was a collaboration. I didn't want to go in there and do anything but uplift what was already being done.
Right.
And when you give a camera to a child or any person, it becomes their story. You begin to see their story through their eyes. And that's what that project was really about.
That's the reason why it means so much to me, because there is one particular young lady that it's been so long since I saw it the first time to up to now that has stayed in my mind. And she was standing inside her house, which was a very small structure, very small space. But the level of pride and joy and gratitude that she had in her heart for this space that she had, and all of the other stories that were told in the documentary, was so special, because we get in our bubble and, you know, what we think we should have by now, or, you know, our possessions, or where we live, or what we drive, or whatever. And that night changed my life, because I was seeing it through the eyes of these children that were grateful for what they had. And it was, you know, to us, so little, but it was so huge, so great for them. And it just brought back the reality that that's what it's about. You know, the spirit is what it's about. And just the joy of seeing them having fun and interacting and laughing. And they were the directors of their story. And it was really cool. It was really cool. I love that piece very, very much. And can people see that? Can people see still?
You can watch the film in its entirety at my website, emergingworldproject.org.
Nice, which is a perfect way to segue into my next question. Tell me about that project, the yet again other thing that you do. Tell me about that project.
I'll say something funny. One of the basic tenets or understandings of Buddhism that I first was told about was that life is suffering. And that really irritated me. Really, really, really upset me. I just didn't think that human beings had to be born into a life of suffering.
Right.
Well, you know, 25, 30 years into practice, I have a better understanding of what exactly that means, which we don't have time to delve into. But I'll tell you that the Emerging World Project was born from suffering. When COVID-19 knocked out the entire tourist industry in Thailand, and the tourist industry in Thailand is mostly elephant trekking.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a tremendous population of elephants that are working in the streets of Thailand all day long, day and night. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible situation to begin with anyway.
Right.
This is something that I've been looking at for several years. So when Thailand basically went into shutdown and tourism went to a full stop, those elephants were tethered to poles in their stalls, and nobody knew what was going to happen.
Right.
So days and days and days without any humans being able to get to them, because their humans had to go back to their villages.
Right.
So the elephants seemingly were going to just starve to death, just died. I lost my mind.
Yeah.
And I cried for 2 days until I got myself centered. And I said, what are we going to do?
Right.
Besides drain my savings account. But what can I do that's going to be effective?
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to do. It's wonderful. We all have something to do, and everything we do matters.
Right.
I want to be effective. That's always how can I be effective?
Right.
So I started coming up with the idea of being able to tell these stories, and being an artist in many different ways myself. I wanted to marry this, and then I wanted to bring positivity into it, to know that people were thinking about what is happening, what is emerging from all of this upheaval in our world.
Yeah.
And what do we see? What is the world we want to walk into?
Mm-hmm.
And again, another think tank with several artists and other conservationists. And we decided that we would focus on these emerging stories within wildlife conservation and use transmedia. So what may be a podcast talk with somebody could turn into a documentary film, which
Right,
could turn
right.
into a graphic novel, which could, that way I'm able to use different artists in the project.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's how it was born. Now we have more stories to tell than this is probably what I'll be doing for the next 30 years. And to
I
push
love it.
vision where I can see what it looks like. What is it,
Right.
kinds of conversations are so complex.
Yeah.
Talk about a culture that has used elephants in this way.
Mhm.
What do we do, and how do we make sure that the intersectionality of that is addressed?
Right. Right.
Because it's about the elephants, it's about the people, it's about the culture, right? I'm just speaking about Thailand.
Right.
On my plate right now is 10 different situations
Right. Right.
that are similar, that have emerged from this.
Yeah.
So that's what the Emerging World Project is.
I'm so proud of you. I've watched it grow from that tiny seed to, it blossoming. So I'm very happy for you and very proud of you. And you mentioned podcasts. You decided to start doing a podcast, and I love this concept. Tell me about that.
Oh goodness. I hope it doesn't sound cynical. What are you doing here?
Exactly. A question we're all asking. Yeah.
What are you doing here? We're humans scurrying on the surface of the earth. What are we doing here? Really, I was on a walk, and it was as if I was beamed in. That was the title, and I'm like, okay, I'm on it. Who can I get to co-host? 12-year-old Marley, and kid schools me on everything, and I love it. I love it. I love it. So Marley and I talk to conservationists all over the world, in different areas. Digital conservationists. We're talking to a veterinarian from Australia. Next, we're talking to Paula Kahumbu in Kenya, and she's responsible for the Hands Off Our Elephants campaign, which was one of the largest campaigns to be so successful, where 80% of the poaching went down to 80%.
Wow.
During that campaign. So a hugely successful campaign. So we're talking to a variety of people, young people. We had a 16-year-old conservationist from the Philippines we talked to back in episode 2. Being able to talk to people about what they're committed to. And the first question I always ask them is, what do you know about your connection to nature? And when did you realize that? And I think this is something that we all need to remind ourselves of.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we are a part of nature, a part of a whole.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not separate from it.
Yeah.
And so the podcast really does address that, but it allows people to tell their stories and what they're doing. And it's wonderful. And having Marley and Marley's perspective, someone that's 12.
I love that.
Who already compost, who's vegan, who can tell you how to pack, eco-friendly, and where not to go and what shoes not to buy. Generation, that's the ones that are, ushering in. And so it's, for myself, I'm still transitioning to being, fully eco-friendly. And it's not an easy task, and it's okay, but it's not an easy task. I mean, I've been vegetarian almost all of my life.
Right.
5, I think it was 5, I decided I didn't want to eat animals, but I have only been fully vegan in the last 6 or 7 years. And so that transition, is a period that I think a lot of people in our generation go at slowly. And so talking with Marley, who already just thinks like that, is pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Conversation. So that's the podcast, and it's so much fun. It is ridiculously fun, and I meet experts that tell me stories that I just, oh my goodness.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything that you said just now is the proof, the confirmation of what that nun said to you so many years ago. You needed to be an artist, you needed to express yourself on so many different levels, and also be a conduit for other people to tell their stories, and and heal and make change and make progress. That's my dream as an artist, to be able to story tell on that level. And now that we've talked about the youth, let's talk about the remote viewing you would like Maryam to do this evening. Tell me about your great-grandfather. It's your great-grandfather, not your great-great. It's your great-grandfather.
My great-grandfather.
Okay.
And, I hadn't thought about my history on this side of my family, which is my father's side. I just hadn't given it a lot of attention.
Right.
And every time I walked into a monastery full of Tibetan nuns, and this brown girl walks in,
Right.
people would say, how did you get here? Like, oh, I took a train from Delhi. I don't know. But really,
Oh my God.
it really speaks to a calling, a more spiritual calling, a spiritual way of relating to the world.
Right.
That is without borders or boundaries or gender, or even if you think about Buddhism, or if you understand Buddhism, it really isn't, it's not a religion.
Right.
It's a way of life. It's a science of the mind.
Right.
It's so I was already walking that way, right? I think that's why I got on the train from Delhi. But as I started to want to tell stories as a way to inspire, mostly empathy, right? To awaken empathy within a person and compassion within a person. I realized that I needed to know where I'd come from in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
So when you approached me, way out of my comfort zone. I don't have little girls come and sit next to me like you did. Whatever. The only thing that comes and sits next to me is my dad. I mean, so this is way out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And but I wanted to know. And the more I started asking a cousin that I'm close to questions, and I saw the faces, and she gave me pictures, and she gave me dates,
So cool.
a little bit of this and this, and they were on Black Wall Street, and I was like, whoa.
Exactly.
Land?
I know. I heard that. I love that. I was like, oh my God.
Everyone wants to know what land, what was on that land, where do animals to us? And so, it started welling up. I started having dreams. It just welled up, and it seems a very natural curiosity. I think I'm driven by curiosity.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hello, guys.
I have to tack on one. That was an incredible interview, Addison, and you're an incredible woman, to say the least. But I wanted to add on to that, to what when you were saying, you ask people, what was your, when did you first realize your connection to nature? And, I talk a lot. I just talked recently about, when I went vegetarian 20 years ago, my path was similar to yours in that respect. And then vegan about 5 years ago. Spirit also led you, was who told me to go vegetarian back when I was 20 years old. And even today, when I channel alien life and or am speaking in regards to health and diet, spirit and specific alien life always discuss the need for living a plant-based diet. Never mind, veganism, of course, is the supporting of not contributing to, the suffering of animals. And so having that continual understanding of what spirit teaches, but then also reminding people that when you talk about the elephants that are suffering, that affects every single human on earth. And every animal that suffered does affect every human on earth. And just because humans are numb and have found ways to not listen to that connection doesn't mean it's not happening, and doesn't mean that suffering isn't affecting you. Just the same as when other humans suffer, we all suffer. Sure. And we have learned how to numb that, and we have learned how to disregard that. And I'm not saying it in a way to pass judgment by any means. I'm saying it as just fact. It just is a fact. And I say that it's a fact because it's something I was taught as a very young age, and it's something that all very enlightened spiritual teachers also follow. They have the same information and they're getting it from the same source, which is very fascinating. When people receive the same information from spirit in their own time, and you're comparing stories and saying, whoa, you heard that? And that's what the yogis did. You know, the yogis were speaking to spirit and started to compare stories. And so I think that your work, it's important that when people hear what you do, there's not this sense of, oh, wow, look at how great she is. Addison has a very deep understanding to who she is as a spiritual being first, that is living in a human body and having a human experience. That's why that work is connected and deep, because you have understood that. And then you have decided, I am not going to numb myself no matter how painful, which means that, yes, you will sit and cry for 2 days because you have chosen not to numb the pain. But then the most enlightened part is to not sit in that pain. It's imperative that once you've allowed yourself to feel the planet, that you get the F up and do something about it, because you sitting in pain is serving no one and actually contributing to the pain even worse. But it's when you sit in the pain for your allotted time, a day, an hour, a minute, whatever that is, and you say, okay, let's get to work. What does that look like? That's when we are truly of service. And again, I'm not saying that it's anything I've mastered or that anyone is doing wrong. It's what we strive to be. It's what we strive to do. Because when you are of service, everything that you quote unquote want or need will fall in line. And I tell you that from my own personal experience. Being of service is effing hard. It means loving and supporting people that are the worst. And it means understanding why they exist and what your role is with them. Right. So anyway, Addison, you inspired me to say that. I know this isn't the place that we typically talk about this stuff, but thank you for that inspiration and that reminder and for sharing that with everybody.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that in return.
Indeed.
Go ahead. Sorry, Darren, Rick.
So now that we've arrived at that moment in time, as everyone knows, be sure to keep your hands and feet in the cart at all times during the remote view. It is a guaranteed roller coaster, as it always ends up being. I'm actually going to step back. Mr. Dedo is going to hang around with having just a variety of facts and figures that could be historically relevant, since we weren't really sure the ebbs and flow of this remote viewing. He's, being his reporter self and has some extra information there, basically. But we'll get things rolling and see what happens.
Darren, you want to kick us off?
No, I mean, I was going to let Addison do it because I guess the information that I have, it really depends on where we go as far as.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a connection to Tulsa because I lived there for many years, so I'm very familiar with obviously with Black Wall Street and the church in the Greenwood district. That such a terrible thing that happened, but I didn't know if the story was going to go that way or I guess it just really depends on what you find out, Maryam. Like I said, I've got plenty of information for a long time. I know people in the community, but
okay.
Obviously
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can start with William. So I'm looking down at photos here, and then I have a pad of paper on the floor. So if you guys at home see me kind of looking around, that's what I'm doing, just to help remember names and who and what. So William, great grandfather, he's right here already. He's such a He's right here. Okay. So this history is a little convoluted. It was I was already speaking earlier before we went live that I could feel there was what's interesting is there's so many lies and things that are covered up that it's confusing and convoluting my information. So we'll all have to kind of work together to stay on track. William is I'm going to describe him this way. Now, keep in mind, a lot of times when I describe, it's not literal. It's a way to explain and give you a visual. William, the visual is big heart, kind soul, but don't cross him. Don't get in his way. And he's going to go after what he wants when he wants it. It's like he always had the gun in the holster and wasn't afraid to use it. Just don't make him use it. That attitude was fascinating when it was placed up against, they're showing me him being placed up against a white man. Because as we know, a white man can be very intimidated already. That runs deep, layer. But in this particular time, he had the ability to alert you without causing such fear that they would turn on him. There was a understanding there. And this is what allowed him to move a little bit more freely amongst everybody than your typical Black man. And I use the word freely loosely. He's just explaining his approach and how he chose to manage what was given to him in that life. Excuse me. I wasn't afraid to create whatever it is that I wanted to create. He built wealth, right? Or was he's saying he built wealth. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. He okay. Excuse me. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting what I'm hearing correctly. He built wealth. And he built it, he's showing me like one brick at a time. It was very methodical, he had to be very precise with everything he did because he was always being watched and questioned, of course. He said multiple times, my wealth and my business was assumed to have been stolen. I was accused of thievery. I never stole. I never took from anyone. I built my business the way everyone else built their business. I never stole. But because I was Black, it was assumed that I did. Because how could I have done this without stealing? What I did take from others was experience. What I did take from others was knowledge and connection. How do you know him? Can I know him? Can I go over there? Can I do that? What is that? Why is that? That I did take. And it was very hard for others to understand that I used my brain. It was very hard for others to grasp that. Don't get me wrong. I made a lot of mistakes. I did people wrong many times, not because I meant to. I was learning. I made mistakes. What can I tell you? But I never did anything intentionally. I was doing what I felt was the right thing to do at that time. Building wealth was really important for the community, obviously, the Black community at that time. Building wealth was more important than human connection for me. For me, it was more important than human connection. It was more important that I built wealth so that everyone had something and something. We all needed something as much as we understood the importance of community and connection. At the end of the day, if you don't have something, you're dead. You're dead in the water. And so I made it a point to disconnect from, and I'm not saying I didn't love, and I'm not saying I didn't experience. I'm just saying that my focus for me was very financial based to set the stage for other Black men and women. That was the intention. And it was also my ego that wanted the success and enjoyed the success. I'm not going to lie. I did like being able to flaunt it and being able to talk about it and being able to show others that thought that we weren't smart enough. I did like that. I didn't lose. Hold on. Addison, do you have a question?
No.
Terry, did you have someone?
Yeah,
Someone has a question.
What started all of this? What was the first, I mean, considering the time and history, what inspired him to get involved in finance? It just seems like such a huge thing to pursue at a time like that.
He's showing me, at a young age, I would play with rocks and I would play with sticks. And I noticed that I had this ability to know, explain, I'm not understanding, know their patterns and know numbers within these games we would play. I just knew I had this ability with numbers. And that's where I started. And he keeps referencing a brick. Do you mean, excuse me, like a actual building, or like symbolism, brick by brick symbolism that morphed into actual tangible building? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And my other question would be, what his parents having been slaves, how did they handle this success of his? How was he able to take care of them? How was he able to provide for them? Because you mentioned that he loved the fact that he could talk about it and be proud of it. How did he change their lives? Which must have been
he's honestly, it didn't have the impact and the positive effect I thought it would, because they were so scared for me every minute of every day. And sometimes they just wished that I would kind of be quiet so that I wouldn't risk my life, because doing this work, you put your life at risk, literally. Every day of my life was at risk, solely because I was a Black man in that environment. And so they at the end of the day, they didn't want to see anything happen to me. And so it scared them all the time, every day. But the money was, I'm asking him about this, the Tulsa, what was it called? Tulsa Massacre?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the race massacre, yes.
Tell me, Darren, a little bit about that.
So it was, excuse me, it went several days. It was from May 31st to June 1st, 1921. Matter of fact, it's the 100th anniversary this year. It happened when a white mob attacked residents' homes and businesses in the predominantly Black neighborhood of what was called Black Wall Street in the Greenwood area of Tulsa. It was just a terrible situation. As many as 300 people were killed, mostly African Americans. This white mob burned businesses, burned homes, left like 10,000 people homeless. It was one of those things where there was an incident that happened with a young man with a white woman in an elevator. She claimed attacked. He was arrested, taken to jail. the community was worried that he was going to be lynched. So several African Americans that were armed went down to the jail to protect him. Some type of I don't know if you want to call it a fight, something happened and a shot was fired. And after that, the sheriff and the National Guard and this white mob basically marched on the Greenwood district, killing African Americans because they thought it was going to be a Negro uprising, is what they called it. It was just, and it's so interesting because it's a terrible situation, but a lot don't know about it because it was hidden from history. Officials in Oklahoma, they tried to basically erase it from their history. So I don't know if there's any connection there. If when he moved west.
Yeah,
Addison, is that right? He moved west, right?
Then my grandfather, they were in Tulsa and then they moved west. Yes.
Okay.
William wasn't involved in that. He wasn't there for that. It didn't affect him. But I think, Rick, you mentioned this earlier. I think we should, in a separate episode, we should go there.
Yeah.
And get some answers. So, but William's saying there's a huge disconnect from he wasn't involved in that. And so he hid a lot of his money. He hid a lot of money. There's a lot of money that a lot of family members didn't even know existed. And he said, I hid money all the time, all over the place, specifically for reasons like that. So I was always very aware and protected myself and hid money all over the place. Hang on one sec. Let me see what's... Addison,
yes.
There's a connection to you 2 lifetimes prior to William being born in this same Georgia location. No, hang on. Is it Georgia? Is it Oklahoma? It's not. William, hang on one second. Someone else is talking to me. The plantation that William's parents were born on, where was that? Georgia.
Was it Meriwether County? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. 2 lifetimes prior to William coming in, Addison, you were born there.
Mm-hmm.
You were a descendant still in the same family line, but obviously that when you were in body, that did not cross paths with William. There isn't a direct linkage other than blood, other than this came about to bring us to that location for you and what your life was like. Young girl, 10 years old, washing clothes, not a lot of friends, stay to yourself. Your role was washing clothes. You weren't really close with your parents because your parents were very disconnected. The trauma that your parents endured was so heavy, and your mother had so many births that were from rape that she was mentally incapable of connecting to humans after that. And so your life was very isolated. And you went through life very numb and very monotone, disconnected, and eventually took your own life at around 34. 20-something, 20s, 34 feels like is when you took your life. You were done. And you said, I'm not coming back in body if I have to do that again. So we waited. And you came back through this time. And this time, I'm referencing the story that I heard, just so people know I heard your interview, so I know that this happened. But your guys are also referencing it. This is why when you went and the nun said, no, you go back, because you so bad wanted to experience spirit and body in a freedom and calm, loving way. And you knew that that can't be done on earth. Humans are just not equipped for this, not all humans, for this peaceful existence. And so it's as if you were sent right back. It's like you were born again. You were sent right back out of the birth canal, and you're like, ugh. All right. The difference is this life, unlike your last life, you weren't alone. This life, you aren't alone. But understanding that lifetime where you came from and remembering that experience isn't important on a regular basis. It's about revisiting that experience, acknowledging it, and understanding why there was a gap between you being there and then you holding off between coming back in a body this time. And that young girl, that 10-year-old girl who was completely alone and isolated, but carried the same strength, even at 10 years old, showing me you washing the clothes by yourself. You had this strength to you, but the strength in a way aggravated you because you couldn't do anything with it, is how you felt. I can't do anything in this. It's like you were like, I can't do anything in body in this life, in this time frame. I can't do anything, right? So why am I here? Why am I here? What is my purpose? But you grew. You had not as many violent experiences that a lot of young girls at that time had. You fought. I'm laughing, not crying. You fought and scared off. They showed me you threatened with a knife a couple times when there was someone tried to come at you, a male, and you had a knife in your hand for some reason, and you went at him, and he left you alone after that. You found a way to be as uninviting as possible. That was your survival, was to be as disconnected, monotone, and silent as possible. Excuse me, going against everything that your spirit really is. But you had to do that karmically in that lifetime. And when you decided to take your life, there was a mutual understanding with your guides and with spirit that this wasn't I'm taking my life because I'm depressed. It was like, hey, I'm out of here. Like, you can, I'm good. I get it. I'm done. I'm going. We all on the same page here. And everyone, spirit's like, okay, all right. It wasn't this, you didn't kill yourself because you were depressed and because you were angry. You were just like, all right, I lived this life. It was awful. What do you want me to do with it? Can I go? And so you were released. And when you came through this time, there is this understanding and remembering of that, which is why this time there is this sense of, okay, what are we going to do? Like, okay, finally I've got something to play with here, something that I can work with here. I didn't have, it was almost like in that life, you woke up and you were like, are you kidding me? What, not victim, like, what is this? This is horrific. This is awful. You were like, are you kidding me? Why am I here? I don't get it. And so because that, excuse me, attitude was not victimized. It was just like, all right, you're going to make me go through this. That's kind of like when this dude, which was not the first or the last, came at you. It was like, all right, I got to go at him. It wasn't this victimized behavior. And because of that, there was this understanding of who you were, which is why you were allowed to leave body the way that you did. And to be clear, those that commit suicide are not punished by any means. For you, that was the conversation that was had, was you can take me yourself, or I'll do it myself. So the reason why we came together tonight wasn't just William is interesting and his story is interesting, but it was about us remembering you and you remembering you on that plantation in that life, because that was your last lifetime. What did she do in the 60s? What? Did something happen in the 60s? I don't know. Should we not talk about that? Or were you born yet? No? Yes? Yeah? No.
No, not enough to be doing anything. I mean,
What was in that baby bottle?
my wife was around, I don't know.
Okay. Something happened with mom and you in the 60s. Either way, tonight is about that heritage and that lineage. It's not so much about why do you guys keep stressing it's not so much about William? I mean, that William was just kind of a jumping off point for us. It was just kind of because we understand William was just kind of a focal point, something tangible for us to latch onto. William was questionable. He meant well, but at the end of the day, he was questionable. And even though you all are related by blood, ultimately that lineage is very separate. That behavior, that mentality was very separate and very different. Addison, do you have any questions about that?
I think it's probably a question for you, Mary, in terms of that, not that activity in particular, but that lifetime of mine, that carrying over. Like, I don't profess to remember. I mean, I could go back to when I was in a crib and get memories, but I don't profess to know anything before. But I do have things that happen that I can't explain other than it was some other time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you, when you said I committed suicide in my 30s, when I was in my early 20s, one of the things I told my teacher was that I didn't think I was going to stick around past 30. And the other thing was that there are all these, crazy complex practices within Tibetan Buddhism, insanely complex. And I chose to take Bodhisattva Vows. And Bodhisattva Vows mean that I will come back until we all get the hell out of here. And that is my commitment. Until the suffering, we all are done. We all get off the wheel. So I just keep coming back. And I'd forgotten about those vows for the longest time until I started doing all this work. And I'm like, why am I so, why don't I just want to buy a big house? And, why do I need to go and, I wasn't really like that, but you know what I'm saying? So my question is does that, I don't know.
Yes. So this explains why you had that agreement when you took your life, right? Mm-hmm. That explains why I said back in that life when you took your life, and it was understood. It wasn't like, what is she doing? She's bailing. It was like, oh, okay, you came in and now you're free to go, and you're going to come back, and we're going to, next chapter. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And the everything that you just said, there's a gap there's a gap. And I think we've seen this gap before, Terry. Haven't we seen it before? Was it with Kat, where she waited from her last lifetime of slavery and then she came in this life? I think it was her.
Kat, I think
we've
so.
seen it before where there's this gap. And that gap is because we all go to school when we pass, and our spirit is in school and is working before it comes back through. I know this because of all the spirits I've spoken with. It's not because something I've studied. You were in school and you said, I understand what's going on down there. I don't need to go through it again. Important to understand, when we are neutral to our environment is when we are the strongest. You were neutral to your environment in that lifetime. You were neutral, borderline depressed, but you understood neutrality. That's what allowed you to come and go. You didn't ask why. Why are humans doing this? Why are they doing this? You understood. And it's not unusual in just the few episodes that we've done, every single history, when we look at Black women, men and women that were enslaved, deep understanding and connection to spirit, deep understanding of forgiveness and acceptance. So that lifetime, again, is for you to look at and then move out of it. You don't have to stay in it. You just need to address it, acknowledge it. Yes, there was carryover, always is. Of course there is. And this lifetime, when you said, I don't think I'm going to live past 30, which you did, obviously, because that was just a memory recall. It wasn't something that was going to actually happen.
Wow. Well, folks, we're actually over time, but we needed to wrap up our details here, basically. But my goodness, Addison, final thoughts from all that you've heard and experienced.
Amazing. Connecting with the pain so quickly and so easily, as Maryam spoke about William and my other lifetime and the pain of that and the understanding of that, and connecting so quickly is brilliant. I mean, I will use that as motivation and inspiration to continue to do the work that I'm choosing to do, because the pain is, I mean, I could have lost it, but we're on camera. So I want to thank you, and I appreciate that. I don't know, it's interesting because I don't know how I've gotten to the depth of pain that I felt listening to that, unless I heard you say that. And that's good fuel.
Very well said.
Awesome.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Thank
Addison
you.
Brown,
Thank you,
thanks for
Addison.
being here. Terry, as always, thanks for helping out. Maryam, Dedo, appreciate you as well. Everyone, good night, and we'll see you next time.
Sure.